Raja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachar Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Jai Jai Prabhupada. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajakacarya Stotra Shata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajakacarya Stotra Shata Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan की श्री वृंदावन मथुरा धाम की श्री मायापुर नवद्वीप धाम की पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की गंगामाई यमुनामाई की तुलसी देवी भक्ति देवी की श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की श्री श्री राधा श्री चोर गोपीनाथ की श्री श्री गौर निधाय की श्री श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा महारानी की श्री प्रभुपाद की सामवेद भक्त वृंद की. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shishi Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Krishna Prastaya Putla Nanda Samriti Namne. Okay, so we're reading from Canto 8. Canto 8, Chapter 2, Text 33. But before we get there, we'll recite the Mangalacharan. Let's do it together. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. O my Lord, all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Narayanam namaskrityam naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tatom jayamudiraye. Which is the very means of conquest. One should offer respectful obeisances to the
unto Narayana Rishi, unto Saraswati, the goddess of religion, and to Srila Nashtrapaeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is called service unto the separation of Godhead, whose praise, which are sample songs, it is established as a irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Chakshurunmilitam Namaha. And I'm born in the darkest of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Perfect. Okay. So we'll read. Yas yah kaschanesho balinontako ragat. Kaschanesho balinontako ragat. Prachanda vegad abhidhavato vrisham. Bhitam prapannam paripati yadbhayan. Mrityu pradhavati aranam tamimahi. Yah kaschanesho balinontako garat. Prachanda vegad abhidhavato vrisham. Bhitam prapannam paripati yadbhayan. Mrityu pradhavati aranam tamimahi. Yakashchanesho balinontako garat. Prachanda vegad abhidhavato vrisham. Bhitam prapannam paripati yadbhayan. Mrityu pradhavati aranam tamimahi. Yakashchanesho balinontako ragat.
Prachanda vegad abhidhavato vrisham.
Prachanda vegad abhidhavato vrisham.
Bhitam prapannam paripati yadbhayan.
Bhitam prapannam paripati yadbhayan. Mrityu pradhavati aranam tamimahi.
Yakashchanesho balinontako ragat.
Yakashchanesho balinontako ragat.
Prachanda vegad abhidhavato vrisham.
Prachanda vegad abhidhavato vrisham.
Bhitam prapannam paripati yadbhayan.
Bhitam prapannam paripati yadbhayan.
Mrityu pradhavati aranam tamimahi.
Mrityu pradhavati aranam tamimahi.
Yakashchanesho balinontako ragat.
Yakashchanesho balinontako ragat. Prachanda vegad abhidhavato vrisham.
Bhitam prapannam paripati yadbhayan.
Bhitam prapannam paripati yadbhayan.
Vate Haranam Tamiyam.
Mrityu Pradhavati Aranam Tamimahi. Okay, we'll do word for word. Same format, right? Forward.
We'll do it together.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So 1, 2, 3. Ya, he who, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kaschana, someone, Isha, the Supreme Controller, Balina, very powerful, Antaka Uragat, from the great serpent of time, which brings death, Prachanda Vegat, one whose force is fearful, Abhidhavata, who is chasing, Brisham, endlessly, every hour and every minute, Bhitam, one who is afraid of death, Prapannam, who is surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Paripati, he protects, Yat Bhayat, from fear of the Lord, Mrityu, death itself, Pradhavati, runs away, Aranam, the actual shelter of everyone, Tam, onto him, Imahi, I take shelter. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: the Supreme Personality of Godhead is certainly not known to everyone, but He is very powerful and influential. Therefore, although the serpent of eternal time, which is fearful in force, endlessly chases everyone, ready to swallow him, if one who fears the serpent seeks shelter of the Lord gives him protection. For even death runs away in fear of the Lord. I therefore surrender unto him, the great and powerful Supreme Authority, who is the actual shelter of everyone. Purport: one who is intelligent understands that there is a great Supreme Authority above everything. That great authority appears in different incarnations to save the innocent from disturbances. As confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam. The Lord appears in his various incarnations for two purposes: to annihilate the duskriti, the sinful, and to protect his devotees. The king of elephants decided to surrender unto him. This is intelligent. One must know the Supreme Personality of Godhead and surrender unto him. The Lord comes personally to instruct us how to be happy, and only fools and rascals do not see by intelligence this Supreme Authority, the Supreme Person. In the Shruti Mantra, it is said, Pishashmadvata pavate pishodeti suryaha Pishashmad agnishandrascha mrityurdhavati panchamaha. It is out of fear of the Supreme Personality of Godhead that the wind is blowing, that the sun is distributing heat and light, and that death is chasing everyone. Thus, there is a Supreme Controller, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 10. Maya dhakshena prakriti suyate sacharacharam. This material manifestation is working so well because of the Supreme Controller. An intelligent person therefore can understand that there is a Supreme Controller. Furthermore, the Supreme Controller himself appears as Lord Krishna, as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and as Lord Ramachandra to give us instruction and to show us by example how to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yet who are Duskriti, the lowest of men, do not surrender. Namam Duskriti no mura prapadyante naratama. Anyone else want to read? Yeah. Go. I'm not going to pick whoever starts reciting.
In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord clearly says, Mrityur sarvas chaham. I am all devouring death. Thus, Mrityu or death is the representative who takes everything away from living entity who has accepted a material body. No one can say, I do not fear death. This is a false proposition. Everyone fears death. However, one who seeks shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be saved from death. One may argue, does the devotee not die? The answer is that a devotee certainly must give up his body, for the body is material. The difference is, however, that for one who surrenders to Krishna fully and who is protected by Krishna, the present body is his last. He will not again receive a material body to be subjected to death. This is assured in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text 9. Tyakta deha punarjanma Mamiti so Arjuna. A devotee, after giving up his body, does not accept a material body, but returns home back to Godhead.
We are always in danger because at any moment that can take place. It is not that only Gajendra, the king of elephant, was afraid of that. Everyone should be feared that Everyone should fear that because everyone is caught by the crocodile of eternal time and may die at any moment. The best course, therefore, is to seek shelter of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and be saved from the struggle of existence in this material world, in which one repeatedly takes birth and dies. To reach this understanding is the ultimate call of life. Anybody else gonna read?
Yes, that's first is the purport of the 8th Canto, second chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Elephant Gajendra's Crisis.
They did it with me one time, so
Tit for tat. That's fine. Okay, perfect. So thank you all so much for being here today. Even though it's your day out, it's your break now. So as you know, you've already, from what I understand, we've already gone through the 8th canto. I wanted to just give a recap and just sort of appreciate the suffering that Gajendra is going through from a different lens and how we can apply it in our life. So it's sort of, today, this verse is the end of chapter 2. And chapter 2 sort of sets the scene for what's about to come in chapter 3. This verse is great in that it summarizes the conclusion of chapter 2, and I'll explain what that means later on in the talk. But then it also sets up what is to come in chapter 3. This verse, as you can see, is really Gajendra coming to this realization that Krishna ultimately is the supreme shelter. And so I must surrender to him. So we'll discuss how he gets there. And then, of course, this sets up chapter 3, where Gajendra then offers repeatedly. If you actually just read chapter 3, almost every second verse he's saying, I offer my obeisances, I offer my obeisances, I offer my repeated obeisances. So the story so far is that in the ocean of milk, Shir Sagar, the same ocean that was being churched by the demigods and the demons, there is a mountain, Tirukuta, or Trikuta, sorry. And in this mountain, there is a celestial garden called Ritumat. It's being created by Varuna. Varuna also creates this drink, this intoxicating drink. So it's meant for maximum enjoyment, right? In this scene, you have Gajendra. It is described that he was actually intoxicated by the sounds and the smells and the waters, the drinks of this celestial garden. And he lived with multiple spouses, multiple wives, and children. So I want you to close your eyes and let's go to this village, right? Or it's not village, to this garden. So imagine wherever you look, it's just greenery. Lush greenery. Every pond or every sort of body of water has multiple different types of flowers, and each of those flowers, different colors, have a different scent. And they all mix in together and create this beautiful aroma that then is gracing, not just your sense of smell, but is also gracing your skin. And so you don't feel too hot, you don't feel too cold, it's perfect weather. Now, in this sort of atmosphere, you get into this lake, which is super refreshing. And just as you get into the lake, the water, it doesn't feel too cold either. It's just right. And with all, we drink rose-scented water. Imagine rose-scented water, you're taking a bath in it only. Right? This was the scene in Gajendra. Okay, now you can open your eyes. We can come back to Toronto. Right? So you just imagine this scene, like this is where you are, right? This is where Gajendra was. And what he's doing, it's described, is he takes water up his trunk and he actually showers it to his wives and his children. And they look at him with great affection. Now, for a parent, we may not so much understand because, at least from what I know, we are not parents, most of us. But for a parent, it's really, you can say, the satisfaction, happiness you get, that's one thing. But the satisfaction and happiness your children get, that multiplies your happiness by 1,000-fold. So this is Gajendra's. This is Gajendra's scene. And amidst all of this, suddenly a crocodile comes, grabs his leg, and drags him into the water and starts to, bite and chomp down on his leg. And this is interesting that in the midst of, you can say, the pinnacle of happiness or material enjoyment, immediately the situation has changed. Gajendra then fights for 1,000 years. 1,000 years he fights with this crocodile. Sometimes we feel, or at least I feel, that such situations also happen in our life. Everything can be going perfectly well. Everything can be going as per our wishes, our demands, our plans, and immediately your alarm rings and you have to get up to reality, right? Or something or the other happens where all of that is reversed. It can be something as simple as, and I'll share my example, right? Or not simple, but we may pray for a certain position, a certain sort of condition of life. And when we get that, we're in the beginning, we're happy. But as that experience drags on, we see all the other new stressors, the other reversals that come. And we think, and sometimes it even happens when we're performing bhakti, when we're performing Krishna consciousness. And we ask ourselves, Krishna, I'm getting up in the morning, I'm chanting your names, I'm following everything that you at the temple and the devotees have asked me to do. Why are you still placing me in this situation? Why am I still suffering? Why am I still experiencing calamities? Why am I still suffering reversals? And so this is the first point. The question I have for you is, does being a devotee relieve you from suffering? No?
No.
Why not? Then what's the point of being a devotee?
It equips you with whatever is needed to go through that suffering.
Yeah.
And, actually grow through that suffering.
Go through that suffering, exactly. Right? So we see this point even in the lives of Srila Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Srila Prabhupada suffered multiple heart attacks on his way to America. When he was distributing his Back to Godhead magazine in India, one time it's a hot summer's day, and he's distributing this Back to Godhead, and he hasn't really had any water, and he would go house to house to distribute Back to Godhead. And immediately this cow comes, bull is raging down the street, and the bull hits him in his chest, and Prabhupada gets knocked out in the middle of the street. He's unconscious. And when he does come to his senses, he dusts off, has a glass of water, and then continues. You may ask, Prabhupada was a pure devotee of the Lord. And in that moment, what is he doing? He's distributing the literature on Krishna, doing what his spiritual master has asked him. And yet he has to suffer like this. Same thing when he came to America. There were so many, when he was staying at one of the apartments in the Bowery, his roommate, a young boy, he has an acid trip, and he immediately starts attacking Prabhupada. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, Prabhupada's spiritual master, he faced assassination attempts on his life, right? Such immense physical and emotional challenges, you can say, but they keep on, and they're pure devotees. So the first point is actually, it's not whether we are a devotee, whether we take to Krishna consciousness or we don't take to Krishna consciousness. If we're in the material world, we are going to experience suffering, period. We are going to experience moments that are out of our control. We are going to experience calamities. We are going to experience reversals. Unfortunately, that is the nature of the material world. So to think that, just by becoming Krishna conscious, we'll not experience this is actually our immaturity. So then the question comes, why practice Krishna consciousness? The whole point is that we are seeking pleasure, we are seeking happiness. And if by becoming a devotee, that's not going to get us, that's not going to stop the suffering, then why become a devotee to begin with, right? And there is a benefit, as Prabhu pointed out. The benefit to becoming a devotee in the context of suffering is that even amidst all the suffering, all the tribulations, all the trials, a devotee's internal mood is not affected. Rather, it can actually act as a catalyst to take even greater shelter of the Lord. Right? We know, again, there's a book, I'll Build You a Temple by Giriraj Swami. In that we see how the trials and tribulations, and not just Prabhupada, but all his disciples and devotees at the time faced when they're establishing the ISKCON Juhu temple. If you want, you take some time to read it. But you see how much they had to suffer for that. And despite all of those tribulations, what did Prabhupada say after the entire episode was over? Does anyone know? Yeah.
It was a good fight.
It was a good. It with a smile, like as if, like if there's a competition, if there's a sport, if there's a race, you say like, oh, that was a good race, that was a good challenge. Like this, he says, right? So the benefit of being a devotee is that although it does not shield us from suffering in this material world, it does give us the perspective, the understanding by which we can actually grow through that suffering, or at least tolerate that suffering, right? Now, let's understand why this happens. So just to recap, the points I've made so far is point number 1. Being a devotee in the material world does not mean no suffering. It still means suffering. However, the benefit is you get to process that suffering in a very different way. Why does this happen? Why are devotees able to not be affected internally when externally their circumstances are not ideal? Whereas some of us, I hope I'm not the only one, even though we are practicing Krishna consciousness, why do some of us still feel that internal shift, that internal, you can say, negativity when things around us don't manifest in the way we want them to? So we'll understand that right now. So when things don't go our way, what are some questions that come to our mind? Anyone? Yes.
Am I doing something wrong?
Am I doing something wrong? Okay.
What I'm designing is kind of self-gratification or not?
Yeah. What am I doing? Yeah. Why me? Why me only? Yes, Prabhu, you're going to say.
Since Prabhu mentioned, what am I doing wrong? So I learned it from my mentors. What's the lesson?
Okay, that's a higher level. We are exploring the first questions that come. I'll tell you right now, what's the lesson, at least for me, comes after 2-3 days. Immediately, what is the question that comes to our mind? Why me? Oh, this again? Yeah.
Why God, why?
Why God? Krishna, why? Right? Yeah. Another question that comes up is, after some days, is how can I manage my emotions when things are not going my way? So let's understand why we get internally affected by these. Actually, all those questions, except for the one you said, what is the lesson for me here? All of these questions here, the question in itself is the answer to why we get affected by internally by external suffering. This is why. So let's take the question, for example, how can I manage when things don't go my way? The underlying assumption of that is that something internally has shifted, which is why I need to manage it. If nothing had shifted internally, I would need to manage it. So something has shifted internally that is why I need to manage. What has shifted? Internally, I'm experiencing either disappointment or sadness or frustration because things have not gone in the way I wanted them to go. Yeah. If we didn't have this expectation that things should go my way, then nothing would happen internally, and then we wouldn't ask there wouldn't be anything to manage. Right? So that's another assumption. And if we continue to go deeper, the assumption is that things should go my way. If the expectation is things should go my way, when they don't, that's when that internal shift happens. And because of that internal shift, then we ask the question, how do we manage that internal shift? So the underlying assumption within that question is the expectations that things should go my way. Right? Now, what is that expectation valid? That things should go our way? What are your thoughts? Yes.
We want, we try, it doesn't come, it doesn't go our way, and then we give acceptance. It's like, yes, we are protecting us, and somewhere the help comes from, the right perspective.
Yeah.
To you. But you can't control those things.
You can't, right? So in basically what you're saying is the expectation that things should go our way is invalid. Yeah. And yet we have this subtly. Now, you have to understand the way illusion or Maya works. She's not going to outright say and come to your mind that you're the controller, you're the enjoyer, you're the proprietor. She's not going to make such an obvious stand. But subtly, that thinking is always there. As I said, it's within am I doing something wrong? The assumption is that if I do everything right, then things should go my way. Right? So if I'm doing something wrong, okay, whatever I'm doing, things are not going my way. That must mean, am I doing something wrong? Because if I did something right, everything right, then things should be going my way. That expectation is still there, that things should be going my way. Very subtly, that false identity that we are the Ishvara is there in a very subtle, hidden way. What is most dangerous? One of the most dangerous things we can have, or that can come into our life, is an associate or a friend or a personality who disguises themselves as our friend, but actually is our enemy. This is how, what happens is when in the beginning of our Krishna consciousness, our anarthas, our undesirables are very obvious. They're external. We like to eat certain things, external. We like to, watch certain things, external. We have some bad habits, not getting up on time, whatever, external. But as we progress in Krishna consciousness, those undesirables become internal. The higher, the more progress we make, the more subtle our anarthas become. And so this is a very subtle anartha that, neophyte devotees, including myself, that we have, is this expectation that things should go my way. Right? Let's look at the example of Prabhupada. Even Prabhupada, being a Supreme Personality of God and being a servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, pure devotee of the Lord, what was his... he established ISKCON, he initiated so many disciples, there were so many devotees, and during his time only, so many devotees left. Right? Now, Prabhupada sometimes, it hurt him, not hurt him that they left, but it hurt him that, there goes another individual who may not use this human birth to its fullest extent. So out of compassion. Other times, what did he say? He told his disciples, don't be surprised by who leaves, be surprised by who stays. Right? And the third time, and there's another time where he would write to the devotee or the disciple who's left, and who's looking to come back. He would write letters that don't be discouraged because you left. Continue. Just because you have chanted Krishna's name sincerely, Krishna will save you at the end. right? These characteristics are characteristics of someone who has accepted that things are not under my control. I will do what I can, but ultimately it's Krishna's will. Right? So that's the second point. So the first point was that we are, by suffering is inherently experienced by all living entities in this material world, whether they're devotees or non-devotees. However, by being a devotee, we get to have that mindset, that perspective that actually I'm not the controller, I'm not the enjoyer, I'm not the proprietor. And because I'm none of these things, then if things do go outside of my control, if things do happen that are, if calamities, suffering, reversals, if they do come, it's fine. Why? Because I'm not the controller anyway. So this is Krishna's doing. He must have a plan. I'm just here to serve him. So internally, we don't get upset. We just keep on going. So that's the mind shift that needs to happen. The mind shift that needs to happen needs to go from, oh, if I'm doing everything right, if I'm doing everything I need to do, then the expectation is things will go my way. That perspective is what needs to be changed. The perspective needs to be changed to actually I'm at Krishna's mercy. Whatever he wants, that is what will transpire, and I'm fully okay. I'm fully surrendered to his plan. How do we get there? How do we make this perspective shift? Any ideas? Any recommendations? Yes, Prabhu.
When we read about the pastimes where like Gajendra and other devotees, there's a pastime of Kuntima and
Yes.
on small miseries, and
Yes.
it happens with us as well. When there's a difficult time, it brings us more closer to Krishna because there's nowhere else shelter. It's like, just bring me some peace. And when we read about Krishna, it just makes us feel like we just can do the things based on our free will, but we cannot control the results of it.
Yes.
But the results are completely in his hands. So let's believe in karma.
Karmane sadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Finish? Yeah. Okay. So what as Antariksh Prabhu said is that yes, what I want to discuss for the last little bit of the class is how do we move from being attached to this idea that we are the controllers to actually becoming attached to our real identity. So this is the false identity that we are the controllers, to our real identity that we are actually the servant of the ultimate controller. And as Prabhu mentioned, paradoxically, suffering, calamities, reversals can be the catalysts that help us achieve this transformation. There is a philosopher, Carl Jung. He noted that, I'm just going to read off here, immense hardships become bearable when we see meaning or purpose behind them. If we perceive suffering as a means to move and the purport behind that is basically if we perceive suffering as an opportunity to move closer to Krishna, then that gives meaning, that gives some sort of purpose to the calamities and the reversals that we're experiencing. And that makes it a little bit more tolerable, right? In fact, if we consider that, oh, this event, this suffering will allow me to develop my relationship with Krishna even more, and we understand how by developing our relationship with Krishna, that is the ultimate saving grace, then we can actually get to that level of Kunti Maharani, right? Where she says, Vipada Shantuta Shashvat Tatra Tatra Jagat Guru Bhavato Darshanam Yatsyad Apurnar Bhava Darshanam. Right? I wish all those calamities would happen again and again so that we could see you, Krishna, again and again. For seeing you means that we will no longer see repeated births and deaths. Right? Let's explore this more deeply. Let's think about a time when we prayed most seriously. What was going through our life? Yeah. Sorry? Final exam. Suffering. That is the epitome of suffering. For an Indian student, that is the epitome of suffering.
I was about to go for Gaura Arati and now it was my first Gaura Arati on Sunday feast and everyone is looking at me. I was like, Krishna,
Right? So we pray the most sincerely when stuff is going, when things are going bad in our life. Right? You look at the example of Gajendra today. Gajendra, he didn't pray when the crocodile first bit him. He didn't pray at that time. He fought the crocodile for 1,000 years. Even in those 1,000 years, he's not praying to Krishna. It's only when he's at the brink of death, when he knows he's going to lose, that's when he prays to Krishna. Right? So similarly, Uttara in the Mahabharata and even in the Bhagavatam, when does she call to Krishna? When does she run to Krishna? Now, before we even get there, she could have, let's think about it. What was the context? The Brahmastra has been released by Ashwatthama, directed towards her womb to kill Maharaj Parikshit. Who else in that battlefield could control the Brahmastra? Arjun. He is still present, right? And he actually neutralized the Brahmastra before that. This is the second one he has released. So Arjuna has done it before. He knows she doesn't run to him. She only runs to Krishna, right? So, and if we actually look at all various sort of examples in the Bhagavatam and in the Mahabharata, in the Ramayana, the only time not the only time, but one of the most common times where devotees really pray to Krishna is when they're in immense suffering. Immense suffering, right? And the reason, and it's not just regular prayer, but it's prayer that is filled with emotion of helplessness, of humility, of love, of deep-rooted love. Right? This is very key. This is very important for us to understand. Our spiritual practices, if they're not infused with emotion, then it's a lifeless form. It's said that when our spiritual practices, when we infuse them with emotion, we're actually infusing them with life. Life so that they can actually make their way, our prayers can actually make their way to Krishna and get his attention. Right? Krishna is known as Bhavagrahi. As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there was a time when the devotees came to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he was living in Jagannath Puri. And one of his associates, Raghava Pandit, he brought a lot of offerings. The offerings that he bought for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were cooked by his sister called Damayanti. And so Damayanti, what she had cooked, that she initially started cooking a lot of very opulent preparations. But then she thought, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will get indigestion. So she cooked very medicinal, bitter preparations to counteract the sweet. But then she thought, this will be too bitter, so I'm going to cook something sweet. So it's okay, well, now I've cooked too many sweets, so I must cook something bitter. So this she brought, and it was, two polar opposites. On one hand, very opulent, filled with ghee and milk and sugar and this and that. And on the other hand, very bitter, very medicinal Ayurvedic preparations. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it's described that even though the medicinal offerings were so bitter, when he honored those, when he ate those, he found them to be even sweeter than sweet lassi, than buttermilk. Why? Because of the love that had gone into each of these preparations. So when calamities come, when reversals come, when sufferings come, they give us an opportunity to actually pray to the Lord in a genuine mood of humility, of helplessness. And when we do it in this way, then our prayers, our sadhana gets infused with emotion, gets infused with life. And for a person Krishna, who is bhavagrahi, who is attracted to the emotion behind the practice, when our offerings reach him, he gets really, really happy. He gets really satisfied, and he comes running to our rescue. Yeah? So initially, devotees, we cry out initially what will happen is that we will cry out or we will pray fervently to Krishna when things are not going our way. And we should. As Devanshi was mentioning yesterday, that one of the people who approach Krishna are the distressed. And Krishna himself says this in the Gita. However, gradually what this will do is it'll actually mature our devotion, it'll mature Krishna consciousness. And so then what we start to realize is we are like, actually sufferings are going to come every day. I just need to be dependent on Krishna, and I need to pray fervently to him every day in a mood of complete helplessness. Right? And by doing this, what happens? This false identity that we are the controller, that we are the proprietor, that we are the enjoyer, slowly but surely that starts to diminish. And we start to actually understand that actually I'm none of these things. The only thing I am is that I'm dependent on Krishna. I'm fully dependent on Krishna. One devotee actually just upstairs, he told me, I was asking same question. Prabhu, it's so difficult when things don't go my way, like what to do? And he's like, Prabhu, it was a festival happening. It was, I think, His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj's Vyas Puja. He said, Prabhu, look at the temple. Go ask anyone if things are working out in their favor. It's like nobody's life is going exactly how they want. He's like, he said a very, very interesting thing. He said, actually, we should have this understanding that when things do go our way, we should take that to be like a coincidence. What we say is when things don't go our way, that's the coincidence. But actually, in reality, it's the other way around. So the final point of this verse, and this is where the final point comes, is that we see Gajendra. He goes through so much suffering. He goes through fighting with the crocodile. And then he finally gets to the point where he understands that actually I'm helpless. I'm completely dependent. Dependent on who? Krishna, who is very powerful and influential. And even though everyone is suffering, if I take shelter of the Lord will give me protection. And so, based on that, I fully surrender to the Lord, the great Supreme Personality, who is actually the actual shelter of everyone. Right? But then how does he get here? He gets here through intense suffering, right, for 1,000 years to get him to the brink of death. Then he gets to this realization. Now, we may not have that luxury that even at the time of death, we can think like Gajendra and be like, actually, my time has come. I need to surrender to Krishna. Who knows where our mind will be. There's this story that I heard Swayam Bhagwan Keshav Maharaj actually sharing, where he had gone to the Ganga, and in the Ganga, Sanatan Dharma Prabhu ki jai.
I had a class just now over. So
No. No, Hare Krishna. He was just saying that, so Keshav Maharaj was just saying that this devotee had gone in the Ganga and he started drowning in the Ganga. And there was a brahmachari, and anyways, they got him out and they asked him, they're like, okay, so you've been practicing Krishna consciousness for so many years. You're almost on the brink of death. Does it work? Does Krishna consciousness work? What were you thinking about? And he's like, as I was drowning, the air kept on escaping my mouth. And so bubbles started forming. And he's like, so my mind started thinking about this detergent commercial that I saw as a kid. And that's where my mind went. And it was such a stark reality that, something so small like that can just take our mind completely in a different direction when our mind needs to stay focused So why wait for that? Let's start making sure we practice right now, practice that mindfulness right now, so that if, and not if, when that situation comes, we are fully ready to take it on. So the conclusion is this: suffering is inevitable in the material world. Being a devotee does not exempt one from suffering. Even pure devotees like Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur experience significant external calamities in their life. However, when you do become a devotee, it allows you to understand your real identity. Sorry, go ahead.
That when Ezra was the king of the elephant,
Yeah.
so he had more knowledge about he was more of than Krishna's blessings. He gave to everyone knowledge and everything. Why he wanted Krishna to be the blessings of Krishna?
Sorry, so?
Ezra was king of the elephants.
Yeah.
He had knowledge of everything.
No, he was the king of elephants, but he wasn't, he was not God conscious actively. He only became God conscious, and he became fully surrendered to Krishna upon that incident, even though he was the king. Yeah. So anyways, as I also said, so that's the first point. Second point is, becoming a devotee, though, it allows you to understand your real identity, which is that you're the servitor of the ultimate controller, the ultimate enjoyer, the ultimate proprietor, Krishna. You are not that, but you're the servant of someone like that. And this then allows you to manage your external sufferings without allowing them to disrupt your internal mood, because you understand internally whatever is happening, yes, it is meant, it's not meant to satisfy, or it's not meant, things are not supposed to go the way I plan them. Things are supposed to go how Krishna plans them. I'm just here to satisfy and serve his will. The way we move towards this is that we actually recognize that sufferings or reversals in our life, they're purposeful. And it allows us to develop genuine humility, surrender, helplessness, and deeper connection to Krishna. And by doing this, then we start to actually shed our false identity and assume our real identity. We start to give up the idea that we are independent and things should go my way, and rather we start to surrender that no, to Krishna's will, and understand that no, this is Krishna's plan. To leave us with that, I'm going to give you a practical tip that you can do this, a very practical tip that we can all apply in our day-to-day life, multiple times in a day. Okay. One practical tip that we can do is just by becoming very mindful of our practices, of our spiritual practices. And one specific example is the word namaha. We use it so many times, right? When we start off, what do we say? Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Vishnu Prasthaya Bhutle, Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschate Shatarine. We say Namaste Narasimhaya, right? When we sing Tulsi prayers, what do we say? Namo Namaha. When we did Srimad Bhagavatam, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Nama means I offer my respectful obeisances. But to actually understand the deeper connotation of that, Nama is actually made up of two words. Na, which means no, and Ma means mine. So Na, Ma literally means I have no strength. I have no I have no standing to actually make things go the way I want them to. And so when we say Namaste Narasimhaya, we are saying, my dear Lord, I have no strength. I have no strength to actually continue with my bhakti, So I surrender, I pay obeisances to you to please protect my bhakti. When we say Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, we tell Prabhupada that I actually have no standing, no strength, no qualification to take this Krishna consciousness, but you're so gracefully giving me Krishna consciousness, so I fully surrender onto you. When we say Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, we tell Krishna, Krishna, I have zero, nama, nothing, but I surrender to you so that you can take charge of my life. If just think about how many times we say these verses. So we start off in the morning. We start off with Mangalarti, and then after Mangalarti we go into Hare Krishna Kirtan, but in the middle we say Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, and then we say Namaste Saraswati Deve, and then we go into Kirtan. Then after that we start off with Nrsimhadev prayers, Namaste Narasimhaya. Then after Nrsimhadev prayers we do Tulsi Arti, Namo Namaha. At least four times you have declared to Guru, Nrsimhadev and Tulsi Maharani that I have no strength. I am completely dependent upon your blessings to carry me forward. If we just become mindful of that, imagine how much, just in the morning, how much mindset can be attuned to this idea that I'm actually fully dependent on you. I have no independence, I'm fully dependent on you. And then when you come to Bhagavatam class, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And then even when you're chanting, we start off, some devotees start off by saying Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Namaste Saraswati Devi. If you're doing it at every round, then 32 times you're declaring, I'm no one. So just imagine the transformation that begins if we start to adopt that practice of just becoming mindful. And this is just one word. Imagine if we were to expand this mindfulness across various you can say, areas of our spiritual life. So this is one practical way where we can think that I'm nothing by my own strength, and therefore I turn to you, my dear Prabhupada, my dear Nrsimhadev, my dear Krishna, my dear Tulsi Maharani, in complete helplessness, so that you can help me progress on this path of bhakti. So with that, I'd like to conclude. I'm sorry I went a bit over, but Hare Krishna. Any questions, comments?